at the time, what kind of roles did you predict from where you sat 20 years ago? Actually, when you were in Unilag, did you what were the roles that you were thinking of will happen in technology space, and how much of those predictions held true? And which ones did not materialize that may materialize later?
Okay, thanks. So when I was in university, I assumed that technology. Fast forward, I always thought about technology in the context of the movies, where we've seen the movies, that there will be artificial intelligence. I
The
always assume,
Matrix kind of movies.
yes, like the Matrix, the whole question around a direct interface between humans and technology. I always assume that reading and studying would no longer be necessary in the future because you just implant
A
something
chip,
into your head,
everything
a
is.
chip, and then the encyclopedia will be in your head and you have answers to everything.
I
So
wish I don't
that's
even have that chip now. True talk, true to God, true to
yeah,
God. The Matrix,
yeah,
true to God.
yeah. Interestingly, if you see the way technology has then evolved, the first evolution of this concept that I discussed was the Google search. All of a sudden, I mean, when we're in school, doing the project meant you had to sit for hours in the library. It means you had to go
Kwana
through
kwana
library
library.
indexes, exactly. And then all of a sudden, we evolved into searching, using the cyber cafes and all. And now we're at the point where we're talking about generative AI, where you even get curated, well documented, albeit with maybe some errors, but it's moved. And the natural evolution where we're moving to from here is where we can actually get that interface right. We're already seeing interface where people, especially people with maybe certain disabilities, maybe they can't move, they can't speak, where they can actually convey words without opening their mouth and they can convey their expression as text onto a screen. So we are getting there. The technology capacity to process or do those type of things too is getting cheaper by the day, and we are really seeing a lot of investments, going into that. Whether you're talking about generative AI, the way people with visual impairment, for instance, can rely on AI, to see the world for them and tell them what is before them.
Hmm.
Read a book, so technology is sort of bridging the gap, and I always assumed we will get there, but I didn't put a time to it, and it was more from a science fiction, but somewhere I guess I'm not surprised by where we are, but what I can't imagine now is where do we go from here? How fast will it come? Will the computers take over the world? Will we start saying yes sir, yes ma to technology? I don't know, but it's scary and exciting at the same time.
More scary for me. I think for me, sci-fi. I don't think I ever got tickled by sci-fi
I
movies.
don't like sci-fi for
They
anything.
they traumatize me more than anything else. I think it's more traumatic for me. I don't know what it is.
You must have been seeing the traumatizing ones, Terminator and Co.
No, no, even Matrix traumatized me. There's one I'm trying to remember now. Just the fact that a robot would have superior powers to you is, I think, is scary enough that I would have to. I'm subject to that thing deciding how
Yeah.
I move and what I do and all of that. And how many movies 20 years ago we already knew that cars will move on their own and live and direct. We're here.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
autopiloted cars. Come on. That is
it, it,
scary.
it,
It's
it can be scary, but yeah, but then if you think about it, so we had the Matrix, we had the Terminator that painted the dark side of technology, where technology goes wrong. But you also have the positive sides, like the Star Trek, the Knight Rider that talked about a car you can speak to that can navigate to where it needs to go to. So there's a positive side. I don't think it's all doom and gloom, right?
all right. I'll say so. I
So,
shall.
so, what would you say is the easiest way for people who want to go into the tech space to port? So, if you're trying to port from wherever you are, or maybe not necessarily port, you're trying to infuse tech into the things that you're doing. How would you say people can access, careers in tech for people that have no
Okay.
idea? And what
Yeah, thanks for
opportunities
that.
are available for women specifically? Because I think it feels like a man's world at the moment in the tech
It's
space.
still a man's world anyway. You turn your
No,
face
it is
mostly.
in the tech space. It feels like there's
It
this.
feels why are you
No.
yeah, nothing your head like no, these people are they've come again with their family problems. They're coming to attack you on live radio. Come on, get your acts together.
But it's like,
Yeah,
how can more women get into
benefits in that
tech
space.
space?
Okay. Yeah, thanks. I think, I mean, in a slightly different view from me, I think technology is one of those fields that is actually a leveler for
Mm,
both men and women alike, right? Because if you think about it, for a number of other things we do, whether you want to get into the field of medicine, you want to get into engineering or architecture, you kind of have that whole barrier of you need to go and study for it. They're professional courses. You can't wake up today and say, I want to become a lawyer and start browsing the internet and become a lawyer. Technology is one of those fields that has a relatively low barrier to entry. So whether we are talking about free online courses, there's free code camp today that has hours and hours, I say well, more than 1,000. You can follow along and learn. You can see more than 30 hours of learning Python from zero, to 100, and it's there. So it's available. Now, the only thing that I would say is yes, do you have a device, do you have a computer? But even that, the barrier around that is sort of being reduced because you don't need to have a high-end computer. You can easily do your free code camp even off your phone and learn some basic skills, right? Now, when it comes to how somebody can embrace technology. Just say, like, so I've literally just woken up today and I want to get into technology. Some of the things I've said earlier would be your options, i.e., looking out for free courses online. In fact, interestingly, Harvard today, they publish on a yearly basis their CS 101. CS 101 is like the equivalent of our GSTs or whatever you have in your. So it's the actual curriculum that a Harvard, a student is taught, which is several hours of learning, and you are almost in the same classroom with Harvard students that are paying the premium, and you can access this for free. Same with MIT, same with Stanford. These are top schools, good quality teachers. So you get that foundational introduction to computer science. You get to understand the application. You get enough information to more or less determine what side of this thing most appeals to you. A lot of us growing up, the typical interpretation of technology is that it has to do with coding, right? And in as much as coding is interesting, today that is not the only path to building a technology career. You could build a technology career out of even designing user interfaces, saying how should users interact with a product, how should users interact with a mobile banking software, whatever. Right? So getting that baseline understanding, and like I said, there are tons of free resources to get you started. Then the next step is then once you've identified the area of interest to start deepening your skills. Now at this point there would still be free courses, but I think it's at this point that you can then begin to think about what investment do I want to make. It could be a time investment if you're relying on free resources. And it could be a money investment where you don't have as much time and you want somebody to give you a more structured curriculum to hold you accountable with assignments and projects that just ensure that your learning is a bit more structured, right? So at that point you can begin to think. And again, there are still low cost options. Today Coursera at $15 to $30 a month, you can take a structured program. And the beautiful thing about Coursera is that you can even do that for free. And it's only when you want a certification that you then decide to pay. Exactly. So there are lots of models that really have the access to knowledge and information has been democratized, right? All we need to do is now to bring yourself and your interests and your time to it. Now, about what options are open to women, from what we've discussed so far, do you agree with me that there's nothing that separates the opportunities to learn between a male and a female? Do we agree on
I
that?
actually agree with you absolutely. And to top it up, I think it's just a decision of her deciding to dish the makeup and to direct the funds for the makeup to buying data
What
to
was your
study.
problem with their makeup?
I have a personal problem.
How is their makeup your
And
business?
convert money for the latest bag and shoes. Use that money to buy
Ladi, you
data.
agree with me that she's beefing their makeup because I don't know how makeup
Where
has to
makeup
do
came
it.
from?
Technology has-
No, but do you agree with me that if you it's your priority, if you are prioritizing that career in technology, then use the money that is to buy those things to invest in data at least, Abi, for starters.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, even if you don't want to ditch the makeup or anything, we've established that there are full.
So that
We've said that there are full options. We've already established that there are full options regardless, right?
data, regardless, they need to purchase.
Oh, yes, and
And this is
look,
priority for attention.
well, you can ditch the
This
you can ditch the Instagram, right? And interestingly today, I know that most of the telcos also have free plans on YouTube, free plans on Facebook. It's just a question of I still believe that it's your time. It is what you choose to spend your time on. Now, when it comes to now actualizing the learning, right? There are different parts to it. Some people, because of the way tech startups have been glamorized, everybody thinks that the only path to realizing the value of learning tech is for you to go and start your own, Ladi Stack or Ladi Wave payment solution. No, that's not the only, or those are not the only options. You can take the path of entrepreneurship, which is, you have the skill now, what problems you want to solve with it, right? You can take the path of being a freelancer, right? Today, there is Upworks, there is Fiverr, where somebody just wants, hey, I just need somebody to design this for me. I'm willing to pay up to $15 an hour, whatever. You guys agree on the rates, you agree on the estimate, and you put your skills to the test, right? You can also take the humble part of being an employee, where you either go through the internship route, and you join a company and then you offer your services. The common thread across all of this is that you are still applying your knowledge, you are applying your skills, and you are getting paid for it. Yes, you obviously can be an entrepreneur, but the most important thing, when you say you want to be an entrepreneur, is that I still think that the foundation that you get from working in a structured environment cannot be, overemphasized. A lot of people get into the entrepreneurship track, they don't even know the first thing about running a business. And that's when you create something, you can potentially even hit a jackpot, but you lose it all because you don't really understand how business works. But what I'd just like to say to the audience, that those listening to this, is that there's no one way. The most important thing is get the skill and know where you want to play. How you then, extract the value from your learning, is then, something that we can debate about. But there are many options that exist that don't necessarily play to the advantage of, one gender over the other.
Okay, so would you say there are grants, opportunities for people in the tech space? So because you talked about earlier, you said if you are done with the free product, you might need to pay for some. But then there are people when you're in Nigeria where we have a huge poverty crowd. Let me just put it like that. So for those kinds of people who really are passionate about growing their career in tech space and who cannot genuinely afford it, are there like affirmative programs, grants, opportunities, scholarships, those kind of things that can be accessed?
All right, sure. I would start, just talking about, because I use a lot of examples, international examples, right? Today on Coursera, there are scholarship programs, right? And that's just one of the many examples. There are scholarship programs that allow people from disadvantaged communities to still access learning, because one of the Millennium Development Goals is access to education, and
Oh,
I, yeah, and it's been agreed that poverty should never be the barrier to getting education. There may be other things, like we said earlier, around access to data and things. Yes, those things are there and they could still constitute a barrier. But as far as the availability of materials, the availability of learning aids and learning tools, it's there. Now, if we bring it home, which is now where we then begin to talk about unique infrastructural challenges that may limit somebody that is in the deep forest of Zamfara or somewhere from getting access to a laptop or the bandwidth or a smartphone to access these things, then I guess those are areas that we need to talk about. Interestingly, part of the plans or the strategic initiatives of the Ministry of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy is the Technology Talent Development Program, which they call 3 million technical talents, I think by 2027, right? With a target of training and empowering up to 3 million Nigerians at no cost, over the next few years. And they started the pilot program, which they trained, or the prototype rather, where they took a 1% of this population, which is 30,000, to more or less develop the program, develop the structure for the program, and that is ongoing. In fact, just a week or two ago, they launched the second phase of the program, which is now extending to 270,000 people, right? And the whole objective of this is to ensure that they are able to reach as many Nigerians as possible to develop the technology talent. Unlike a lot of prior programs that tend to be concentrated in the urban region, the selection approach for this ensured coverage across all the states of Nigeria, ensured coverage around most local governments. And if you listen to the minister, he says surprisingly they got a lot of applications from places we can't even imagine. They got more applications from the north. They got more applications in those remote locations, and they try to ensure that the selection process captured as many people as possible. Those are some of the options that exist, and I think there are more and more.
let's
Please,
move
I
on
mean,
to Madam. Madam needs attention. We'll just give you 5 minutes. Going a quick break. When we come back, hopefully, Madam CEO will have been attended to. Stay with us.
I praise Allah for sending me you, my love. You found your home, it's here with me, and I'm here with you. Now let me let you know, you've opened my heart. I was always thinking that love was wrong, but everything was changed when you came along. Oh, and there's a couple of words for the rest of my life. I'll be with you, I'll stay by your side, honest and true to the end of my time. I'll be loving you for the rest of my life. Through days and nights, I'll thank Allah for opening my eyes.
You're welcome back if you're just joining us. It is the Other Woman, and today on the show we're looking at careers in technology, and we do have with us KPMG partner, Mr. Ladi Absuni, and he's been walking us through the world of technology and the vast resources available. So you honestly have absolutely no excuse not to be a tech guru.
You just need to have a phone and data.
I think you need to have the interests
Well,
to pursue
there's
it.
that.
He was just on the the minister having so magnanimously picking people from different locations, and it's actually a process where anybody and everybody can get on. So all those sentiments that we usually come up with are they are choosing their family members and all of that is actually not true, because people in the remotest areas in Nigeria have access to the freebies coming into talking about digital economy. Mr. Sonia, good to have you back.
thank you.
Yes, So you were talking about the minister and the airport. In fact, incidentally, I was going to ask you how did they select? No, me and the typical Nigerian me was saying, it's not the family members that they will put, but now you're talking about people in remote areas actually putting through an application.
But how come is the information is not? Did you know about that?
I didn't even know about it, thinking that there was 30,000 people. They extended to 270,000. Anyway, there's 3 million. There's still gap of money.
No, but the point is we didn't know about it.
Yeah,
So,
so
how
how's the information being disseminated?
Yes.
That those in remote areas.
Well, I don't want to hold this for the ministry, as I'm not an employee of the ministry. But what I can say is that the minister has been pretty public about his intentions, from publishing a roadmap to publishing a strategic roadmap, as well as publishing updates, whether it's on X, former Twitter, or even on it. There's a dedicated WhatsApp channel where they publish on a day-to-day basis, including the reports around their selection process, how they've gone about this. So the information is there. I think my recommendation is just generally that for those that have interest in any particular field, is to map influencers, policymakers, in that field, and try to keep up to date with the development in that space.
But I think one of the challenges in getting into the tech space is really that people don't know where to go. Like I heard you say earlier that you can learn and pick your interest and stuff like that. But if for a greenhorn who is clueless about anything, the question is where do they start the learning from? Where do they start the learning from, and where do they get the information on which aspect of tech would work best for them? It's not like there's a counseling unit somewhere, where you're giving heads up on, what, if you do this and if you do that, So how can people like greenhorns, clueless like me, who are interested in, tapping into the money in the tech space, how can we, proceed?
Okay. The way I would like to look at that is, obviously there is the path of mentorship, right? Because regardless of what we say, a lot of things, aspirations are usually shaped by what we see. The art of what is possible. You probably want to have a reference point. Maybe you're saying, I like what I see. Perhaps I like the way Bill Gates created Microsoft and made computers available on every desktop. Mentorship does not always have to be a one-to-one relationship. Just basically following and listening to this particular person can really open your eyes to, how that industry or that space is going, what the developments are. And sometimes by the time you listen to one person, you connect to another. So you start with Bill Gates. Next thing is that you are connected with Satya Nadella, and so on and so forth. And you are listening to a concentration of thought leaders, or experts in that field. So that would be the one point in terms of even getting an awareness, right? Now, when it comes to knowing what options are available, I like to think about it the way we use internet today, right? If you had to cook or prepare a meal that you're not familiar with today, you would search, right? So we would search. That's our first point of entry, today. So just being able to Google something as simple as what are the career options in technology, which open you to a number of options or possibilities. There are YouTube channels, that you follow, that I even follow, just to keep up with the trends, right? And I think that people can spend some time, right, to just follow that. But nothing beats having close proximity with people in the field, people that are playing in that space where you can just generally catch up. And I'll give an example. So my sister-in-law, she's a trained engineer, petroleum engineering, and when we got talking at some point, and I was just similar discussion as what we're having now. I told her about the possibilities around data and analytics at the time, and just of the conversation, she also went exploring and before I knew it, in about a year, she had done some of the things she's done, even I haven't done, despite being in the professional field. So just getting onto those programs, learning about different data science tools, doing different projects. And I mean, I was so proud of what she was able to accomplish within such a short time. So sometimes it's just about talking to somebody. You never know when you would hear, but a lot of it still comes back to the natural curiosity of the individual concerned. Nigeria today, people do spend time, right, coming and getting into the whole, especially when it comes to how do you learn computers to do how do I call it? I don't want to use the inappropriate word, but people go and learn how to scan, with technology. So that same energy can be directed. It's just a matter of interest. So whatever is important to you, you will give your time to it because the information is there. So I think that people just need to spend more time talking to others, doing their online research, and it's an absolute gold mine out there if you're able to give it the time.
Right. I want to go very quickly to to the technology talked about and how Nigeria has evolved in that space. And before that, really welcome one of our crew members, Haja Wasila, just joined us. She's been trying to get in for a bit, but I apologize, sis. I'm so sorry. You're welcome, and we've been having a very, very interesting conversation with guests today. So just feel free to jump in whenever you settle in. So Nigeria as an exporter of technology, and that's a headline to the extent that we are hoping that we can export. And let me just give a background to it. So in 2001, at the time the telecoms industry was just deregulated, we had about 400,000 phone lines. In 5 years, by 2006, there were over 10 million lines. And in 2023, 200 million connected lines, 300 million SIMs. And we've expended, $2.35 billion on telephone importation just between 2019 and 2021. So we are consumers, we're a market that people know that they can, milk from, so to speak. Having mastered the art of importing technology, can the Nigerian economy export technology? Are we there yet? Do we have what it takes to become exporters, having been chronic consumers?
Yeah. I think we have the potential, and I would liken it to what we see about, I think there's an attitude to exporting, right? Just like many things that we consume locally. For some reason, our natural inclination is to import. It's a natural thing. It is not for lack of options. It is not because we don't make locally, but I would say that sometimes we've been wired not to trust homegrown solutions, right? So if you think about fashion today, even for those of us that think we are wearing local, the textile is not local. The tailor that put it.
Even the word local is what makes it nauseating me. Local, like I can't do local things.
But if you Google local as an English word doesn't mean what we take it to mean. Local just means it is from within your vicinity, your location. That's what local is. It's not the meaning. Local as a word is not
the word local. If I am
so we have localized it. So if you think about it, think about cars today. It's the same way we have at least 2 or 3 local car manufacturers or assemblies, but we'd all rather be seen in Toyotas or Lexuses or BMWs. It's an affinity game. If you go into the business landscape, the technologies, the software powering a number of our industries are all imported, right? And not because we don't have local software developers that have developed same thing, financial management, accounting solutions, but we just tend to trust that what Microsoft or what SAP has developed or what Sage has developed is better than whatever Mr. ABC has developed in Nigeria. Not thinking about how these solutions that we are spending our money to, what journey did they go 2000s or even before that, we have the classic case of Hyundai, the Hyundai cars, where people said they were plastic cars or that they break down a lot. Those were the formative days of South Korea's, automobile industry. But guess what? They stopped with it. They continued to develop those cars. They continued to work with them, and now they're where they are. Same with Geely, BYD. BYD used to be one of the fleet cars in the early 2000s in my area, and then it was just a case of it is all good for what it is, office fleet, your run around vehicle, but nobody was going to buy BYD or Geely as a personal car. But think about it today. Today, BYD is giving Tesla a run for their money on electronic vehicles. So we come back now and then we say the same thing, saying no. Those cars only going to drive you go on top Milan bridge, or you have an accident, the airbag will not deploy. But people develop their technology. You can only develop it by using it. We are not patient. We stigmatize or we feel a sense that local is not good. That's on one hand. Now, the part of the enterprise where you don't also have to reason with them, and I've seen this even in client conversations where invites Mr. Tunde, who has a software company, to develop a solution. Mr. Tunde develops a solution. We are working together. We have a good partnership. And then all of a sudden, one day you have a solution or you have an issue, you call and they say, but I've moved to Canada. So you are left with technology powering your business in the hands of somebody who can,
up and go at any time.
Up and go at any time. So that is affecting the confidence. Now, chicken and egg situation. What made Tunde leave Nigeria and decide that this is no longer what is why? Maybe the fact that 5 years into this game, I only have 3 clients: my brother, his sister-in-law, and maybe my mother. Now, that might be the situation. And then on the other hand, you then find that the ABC Limited or all these other big companies, why are you not using Tunde software? Well, because I don't trust that he won't pack his bags and leave and be stranded. But guess what? Microsoft is established. Even if the developer of the Microsoft solution, they have a structure that ensures continuity and sustainable deployment and maintenance of any technology they sell. So that structure, which is back to the point I made earlier, that learning technology and becoming an entrepreneur is not necessarily just I want to do this and sell it. If you've not learned the art of building a business in a sustainable way, then you may not really reap the reward. You might just as well go and become an employee somewhere, because all it takes to build a solution that will be sold to enterprise customers and supported on a long-term basis, it will require a bit more work than just knowing how to code. You really need to know how to run a business and support a product.
So with what you just painted, the scenario you just painted with Mr. Tunde, it beats me, and I'm wondering, isn't there more the government can do? I'm wondering if, how much of the 28 trillion naira budget is allocated to development of technology, and a successful year for us, what will it look like if technology actually does work in Nigeria in terms of exportability, where to stay and build a sustainable business? Are we giving them the enabling environment? Is government doing enough, would you say?
Okay, well, I think my view on how government can help, I would say it's in two folds, right? And I'll come back to the budget. But it's the same agitation we had around why our lawmakers, or why there's no policy that states that all ministries, departments, and agencies must only use made in Nigeria cars, as it was, before, when government issued cars were Peugeots that were assembled in Nigeria and things like that. So today, government is arguably the largest employer of labor in Nigeria, right? In terms of the size of business, government also wields a lot of influence in terms of, just being the technology provider for a state government or 2 states in Nigeria can easily, sort out any entrepreneur, and before you know it, we can then begin to scale. One of our success stories coming out of Nigeria is the Nigeria Interbank settlement system. And you know that today other African countries have modeled their instant payment infrastructure around what was built, envisioned and built in Nigeria. All the years, I know that if you go back to the history of NIPS, we actually did take some learning from the Portugal payment system. But we built something. It works for us. And we are now, yes, it's been sustainable for years. And other countries are beginning to come, to learn from us. But then when we think about software, accounting, HR management systems, how do we apply the same principle to that? How do we create a situation where, by policy, by direction, by instruction, we say that the off-takers for locally developed solutions must be the government as a first instance. If all ministries or agencies begin to give the locally developed solutions a chance, then they will only get better. If you think about countries like China, India, right, there are favorable policies that almost ensure that the government is the number one sponsor, the number one buyer of locally produced items, whether we're talking about the infrastructure, whether we're talking about software. In China today, who are we provides the infrastructure that powers a number of government agencies, and not just government agencies, even in the private sector. The banks use who are we solutions. The people use alternatives. So when you talk about Google in the rest of the world, in China, what you're more likely to find is Baidu, a local option. If you talk about WhatsApp, in the rest of the world, if you go to China, what you get is WeChat. So they develop their own. You can call it cloning, you can call it whatever, but they develop their own for their own market. That's not the same in Nigeria. We are fine in Nigeria for the top government officials to drive cars that are not made in Nigeria. So those are some of the areas where the government can support the local technology industry by embracing and working with them to develop, embracing the fact that there will be rough patches at the start, but they can only get better when they get feedback, from the users. And I'll close with a little analogy that a story. I can't remember where I picked it up, but what it was is that post World War II, when Japan was recovering from the attack and all of that, the Hiroshima situation. And we had the Japanese students studying in other parts of the world. And this person noted that for the Japanese students, they were using pencils that were manufactured, and their pencils were very brittle. They would break every time, and then the person kept on sharpening. And I said, why don't you just get a more reliable pencil from the bookshop? And the person responded that, with tears in her eyes, that if we don't use our own, who will? And if you fast forward to today, Japan is not just a leader in making the pencils that are there, but in other things, other technologies. Same for Taiwan. Taiwan started manufacturing semiconductors 1976. Think back, where was Nigeria in 1976? Today, Taiwan powers more than 64% of the global semiconductor market. So we just have to give ourselves a chance, work with our industries and help to nurture them, help them to grow. And it will only come from Nigerians using Nigerian solutions, Nigerian software.
I agree with you. Absolutely. Haji Wasley, you want to jump in here? I trust that you're fully settled in now, right?
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Sorry, I would like to ask, my whole question is, I just wanted to be straightforward because of time. What sort of software do you have for SMEs that is cheaper? Because the problem we normally have is that, these customized package SMEs, for SMEs, they are nice, they are this thing. But when you talk about getting SMEs for Nigeria, getting software for Nigeria businesses, or you want to try to use our own technology to pay, the prices are usually very, let's say, it's a bit higher than just getting customized one on a monthly basis. So what advice will you give for us for SMEs to get the software? Do you have something like that? And what career path do you have for women that they can add to their skills? Those are my 2 questions because of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So when it comes to software, that I can't be prescriptive, but I can give some ideas, right? So I know that there are local software depending on the line of business, right? Just during this past week, I was talking to an ex-colleague that had gone on to start their own company. When they worked with KPMG, then they were supporting the more established technology platforms, SAP and Co. But now they've gone out of KPMG, they've developed their own solutions, targeted at enabling and supporting the SMEs. And a few of them, there is Sophie ERP, I know there's High-Tech Synergy that also does solutions for the markets, and they're servicing clients in Nigeria, in Ghana. But like I said, because I'm not a user of their solution, I don't want to be in a position where I am endorsing. Right? But there are options. That's what I can see, for locally developed software. One just needs to search and look at your price point and go for the one that meets the need of your business, depending on what you need. Even the system spec HR solution, for the longest time before they started doing the TSA, they had the Human Manager, which was at one point the most popular HR software in the market. So that's a local option there as well. Now, when it comes to the options for women in technology, before we joined, I talked about different things around the entry points, career paths. But I would say that there are no defined spaces where you should play by virtue of your gender. The question is, what do you want to do? So do you want to be a data analyst? There's a space for that. Do you want to be a business analyst, i.e. somebody that understands business, is able to dimension the requirements of a business into detailed logic for a developer to pick it up and do the coding? There's that part. Do you want to code? Maybe you're a mathematician, you like maths, you like algorithms, you like solving complex problems. There's a part for that. Do you just want to deal with the front end? How I'm able to tell a beautiful design from one that isn't, or I appreciate colors, I appreciate organization. You can play in the user experience, UI design space. So there are lots of fields. Or it could even be that you are an organized person. Whenever people come to you, you're someone that is able to organize things that are chaotic. You're able to multitask. You can be a project manager. You can manage the development of technology solutions. You can manage the implementation of solutions, right? So there are no limits. It's just a question of, what do you think your strengths are, and by knowing your strengths, you can easily, break it down into the areas where you are more likely to thrive than others.
Thank you so much, Aisha. Anything else from you?
I have a question for poverty alleviation. So I was just going to ask that, considering the fact that there is the barrier of data, are there other ways that people experiencing extreme poverty who are looking to rise and who have interest in tech, are there ways we can support them to grow, considering the fact that there are loads of materials? So what are things that we can do to ease their path into the tech space?
All right. From that perspective, I would say that people that are interested in supporting the less privileged or the underprivileged, the way to look at it, we've already identified the need, which is the barriers around access. Right? We've already settled on the fact that the options are there for them to learn. It's the access. So what I would say would be things like investing in learning centers, equipped learning centers, where you can bring the connectivity to a central location. you can collaborate with the likes of the foundations of some of the big telcos, to establish learning centers in certain areas. And I'm sure that they will be more than happy because it falls right within their CSR initiatives. So if we develop community-based learning centers, we are able to rotate across different community groups, whether schools, mosques, and other religious entities that can use these community learning centers on a shared basis. You can also use these learning centers and outreach through which you bring in professionals, thought leaders, established tech players to come and have career talks, to come and engage with people at the early stage, the mid stage, or the later stage. And just by sheer proximity, like I said earlier, sometimes we don't act. It's not because we didn't get to touch a computer for the next 10 years, but whatever seed was planted in me lasted all those years, then you never know how such an outreach, can imprint or impact the minds of the young people in that community. So I just say, learning communities, collaborate with the foundations or the CSR initiatives. Let's get those computers there. It could be 5 computers, it could be 2 computers for a start. When they came to my school, there were about 30 or 40 of us to about 8 computers. We had to take turns, even though we're interested in playing games, but it still made an impact. Sometimes we don't even know we are making an impact. But for a number of us there, we did benefit from that. And I can say that where I am today cannot be entirely diverged from that experience. Right, so that would be my recommendation. I don't know what you think about that.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
I'm so in love with this session today. I'm Hajawasta, you want to give closing remarks? We're out of time. We're going to be kicked out any moment before they, shoot us out. Your final words.
Okay, what I'll say is that although I join in late, but the little that I can grab from you, I'll say that is very beneficial, especially on the area of the poverty alleviation. And I think that is more collaborate with NGOs and all that to reach out to people out there so that they can learn the good stuff of the internet instead of all this bad stuff that is out there. And the other thing about the career, I've been told that you mentioned a lot of where we can get materials. Yes. Where we can get materials for so that we can engage people to get it sorted out. Thank you very much for coming, and we hope to see you again. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.
We will find time to bring him again. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
It's an absolute pleasure catching up with you again, and we hope that when we call, you would honor us again with you. Oh, and of course, this advice you just gave Sidiko Foundation, we're taking it up. We're going to take it up, and we're coming for you. We're coming for the experts too. We will do our own groundwork. We'll do the necessary work. Try to get a space to fit in.
To bring the experts to the people.
Yes, can we shake to that?
We can shake to that. I'm giving a virtual shake.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sophia.
More than happy to support anytime.
Right, thank you so much. We would love to have you again, and thanks to your family for allowing us have you for this time. And Chairman Sawa, sorry for taking that day away from you. You are free to go, sir.
All right, thank you
so much. All right, that's how.
Thank you very much. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you so much, and you too. That's how we can go on the show today. Why not join us same time next week when we bring you another beautiful package of The Other Woman. My crew members are here. Aisha Adams is coming back with Human Being next week. Flesh and blood. Okay. We'll be in Ramadan then. Haja Wasila will be inside the studio. No virtual something again. You are one. You are 4-1. To be 4-1 is to be 4-harmed. You hear me? So
okay, we'll work towards that, inshallah.
For all of us. Thank you so much. It was an episode from here. Love from us to you. We'll see you next week, inshallah. Masalam.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.